In a sci-fi world where most things are powered by technology and AI, a man loses his mind and activates his fire powers inside a moving train. He takes a girl hostage, asking her if she believes in the Divine Gate, which is the source of the 6 different powers that they can use in their world. He tells her that the Divine Gate can grant people wishes and he plans to use its power to change the world. As soon as he starts killing people, a boy called Odo shows up to stop the man. He blocks the madman's attack with his water abilities before proceeding to kill him rather easily. Just then, 2 friends Midori and Akane who work for the World Council show up at the scene only to find out Odo has done a job for them. The World Council headquarters activates something called a Neutron which immediately transports them away from the train. Odo leaves the scene while he recalls a tragic incident of his past that makes him sadder than he already is. A boy shows up in his subconscious and reveals to him that he won't reach the Divine Gate because he doesn't believe it exists. Meanwhile, Akane and Midori are praised for using their gears called drivers to handle the situations even though they are still Academy students. Thanks to their weird robot pet, who looks like Prince Zuko's distant cousin, they re-watch the clip where Odo defeats the madman without using a driver. Even Midori can't stop ranting about the Divine Gate, and this makes Akane so mad that he tells her to can it. Shortly after, the leaders of the town meet up to discuss the incident, and here, the leader instructs his assistant to reach out to Odo. At school, Odo usually has a creepy routine of putting ice in his ramen, causing his classmates to stay clear of him because he is also known as the parent killer. Akane and Midori meet up with their special advisor fairies who usually train them to master their abilities as adapters. Like every fire user, Akane's teacher doesn't hesitate to flaunt her powers while tormenting him in the process. She then informs them that Odo would be joining their team and it's their job to make sure he accepts their invite. At first, they seem excited to recruit him. However, when they learn that he is the infamous parent killer, their expression turns sour. Odo is soon summoned by the city's leader named Arthur, and here he gives him a driver that was created just for him. He rejects the offer and leaves the office only to encounter his latest recruiters waiting for him. He once again rejects their invitation, and when they try to bother him further, he tells him that the rumor about him killing his parents is actually true. It turns out Odo was the least favorite kid of his parents, so he was always neglected and given cold food, while his brother lived a spoilt, privileged life and showered with love. Not that you can relate, though. The next day, Akane has a dream about his father who passed on before he could see him master his innate ability to control fire. He is woken up by Midori and Undine, who he casually ignores because the dream has completely ruined his mood. They meet up with Odo once again, and Midori, the green-haired cutie, asks him if he is the owner of the kittens he is feeding. He tells her they are not his, and this somehow annoys Akane because he thinks it's cruel to feed stray animals only when he feels like it. Akane gets angry and walks away with his creepy robot pet named Bon, who gives them information. It scolds him for being short-tempered, and as they stroll into the city, Akane narrates to him how his father, who was one of the best divines in the city, died in the middle of an experiment. He soon encounters a kid with a bad attitude who begs him for some change like he owns him. Akane recalls what he told Odo about feeding strays, so he freezes just before he brings out his wallet. Odo then shows up, and Akane learns that he is the one who usually feeds the kid because his parents are extremely poor. Just then, an automated patrol robot passes by, only to stop abruptly thanks to the interference of the mischievous god Loki. He begins to use the robot to destroy the vicinity, causing explosions as people run to safety. Akane quickly contacts the control station, but they tell him there is no anomaly with the robot. The kid screams to attract the robot's attention, causing it to attack the building he is hiding and trap him inside. The kid stage shows up to help him, only to be triggered by PTSD, which makes him fall down. When Midori shows up, she and Akane go into battle mode by equipping their drivers with due authorization. Midori uses a wind staff to go high and behind the robot, while Akane attacks it head-on with his flaming fists. Odo, who is a water user, also activates his driver that he uses to kill the fire from the explosion. Once everything dies down, Akane lashes out at the kid's dad. However, Odo explains that it's not his fault as his subconscious and consciousness were in conflict, and that was why he couldn't save his son. It turns out Odo is also battling with his subconscious, where a strange boy talks to him randomly, forcing him to confront the source of his grief. That night, they head to the academy where Arthur, who looks kinda shady, informs them that he has obtained the key that can open the Divine Gate. Episode 3. The next day, everyone including Odo watches Midori give her all in a sparring match with Ginji, one of the top students in the academy. She becomes so fired up that she doesn't listen when the match ends, probably because the only thing on her mind is the news about the Divine Gate. During his welcome party, Odo is given a nice plate of hot chicken, but he rejects it because he has never eaten anything warm in his entire life. That must have rubbed off on his attitude as well. After the party, Midori is made to clean up since she failed miserably when they all played rock, paper, scissors. Although Akane helps out, he spends more time teasing her than actually helping out. When Akane asks her why she wants to reach the Divine Gate, she recalls having a friend who always wanted to be around her. The friend always gets angry anytime she hangs around other people, and one day she tells her she can't be friends with just her. That night, she apologizes to her friend on the phone and they finally make up. However, the friend suddenly disappears for a long time, never to be found again. At the place where she was last seen, Midori receives a text from her stating that she is going to the Divine Gate to get her wish granted. Just then, a bright light shines and Midori sees the gate open from a distance deep in the mountains. Meanwhile, Otto is being followed everywhere. He goes by a surveillance robot, controlled by a handsome kid called Brunner. When he gets to the council headquarters, Midori and Akane ask him why his records are restricted anytime they enter it into the building's computer. He takes offense and asks them if they'd become his die-hard fans who have resulted in stalking him. However, Akane quickly makes it clear that they just want to know why he is suffering secretly like a guy who just experienced the worst heartbreak in history. He leaves the curious duo alone to do what they like, and while they head out, Midori gets a text from an unknown sender promising to teach her how to read classified information from the server. Akane tells her not to click the link because it's definitely shady how the person is eavesdropping on them. The idiot girl clicks the link anyways and they find out they can access the information they need by stealing a lecturer's passcode. They head into the supervisor's office to take her passcode only for Undine to show up before they can grab the card. Akane decides to leave their fate in Midori's hands, who then has no choice but to give Undine her limited edition cheesecake just to cover up their tracks. The passcode they stole finally allows them to gain access to Oto's file, and here they find an article about the Blue Christmas accident where a mall was burnt down 2 years ago. It turns out that was just a cover-up because it was actually 2 murderers who killed 666 persons who were shopping at the mall. They try to ascertain if Otto was one of the killers, but the article the information is on is so restricted that even Undine doesn't have access to it. Just then, surveillance robots show up along with Brunner, who Midori mistakes for a kid cause he's so short. Brunner introduces himself as a member of Arthur's private unit and for some reason offers to tell them what happened during the Blue Christmas incident. That night at the mall, the power suddenly went out and a boy in a hood killed a security officer who tried to approach him. The guy wielding 2 sword drivers begins to kill everyone he comes across, while also making sure the ones who try to escape are trapped in ice. He stylishly killed people one after the other, even impressing another water user who tried to challenge him. He cuts his face and proceeds to ask him to join him in the massacre, which he willingly obliged because fresh blood looked cool on ice. Brunner tells them the main killer was Otto, and he was the guy who tried to kill a little guy, prompting his father to protect the girl and die in the process. He further explains that after his father died in his arms, the building exploded and he was saved from the explosion by Otto, who had blue eyes just like his father muttered in his dying breath. After hearing the story, Akane argues that there's no proof that the killer was actually Otto, so Brunner tells them he is going to prove it and he wants them to assist him. Midori accepts the offer, stating that she only wants to prove Otto's innocence once and for all. At this point, she's just being nosy, but who cares because thanks to her meddling, they find out Otto is currently in the ruins of the Blue Christmas incident. There, he meets with the second murderer who he slashed in the face during his murder fest. The guy tells him he was captured by the council ever since and only just got the opportunity to invite him to a meeting. Just then, they are interrupted by Brunner, who descends from the sky with a mechanical hammer ready to crush them both. Brunner recognizes the other guy as Schrödinger, a famed genius of the divine. Brunner promises to beat the shit out of Schrödinger, but the guy deploys numerous attack robots to keep them busy. Akane, Midori, and Otto also activate their drivers, and when Otto crosses blades with Schrödinger, he tells him that he is also looking for the version of Otto who carried out the mass murder. As they fight, he insinuates that Otto has split personalities, and at the same time, a weak-ass Brunner tries to butt in only to get saved by Otto. Once Schrödinger confirms that this Otto is different from the one that changed his life, he brings in a humanoid robot to kill them all. Brunner stops its first attack with his gigantic hammer, then they decide to cooperate by taking turns in attacking the robot that is actually a result of Schrödinger's obsession with Otto. Once they take care of the robots, Schrödinger leaves the scene, leaving the broken robot who looks like Otto behind. The robot suddenly wakes up and calls Otto her master, prompting him to give her an order. Episode 5. The next day, the trio are taken to an abandoned area where they are trained for the meantime. When they arrive, Akane complains about training alone without their supervisors, so Jinji tells him to go home. He'll only act like a coward all the time. Their other colleague, Bakari, who's always smiling to cover up her sadness, as well as Yukari, who's kinda cold-hearted like Otto, reveal that they'll also be training here. As expected, Yukari tries to hit off a kindred spirit with Otto since they are both downers, however he barely pays her any mind. Soon they are welcomed by a weirdo with a horse costume, which makes them so disturbed that they decide to ignore her. She quickly chases after them and eventually removes her costume to reveal an 8/10 face. She introduces herself Bedivere, a member of Arthur's Knight of Rounds, and quickly explains how she was tricked into the horse costume thinking that it was the only way they'll recognize her. To begin the training, they are split into two groups and asked to locate checkpoints all around the forest. Midori thinks the mission sounds fun, but then they encounter Brynor and another knight named Palamedes who they are to fight in order to proceed. Despite his age, Palamedes turns out to be a simpleton who's so ripped he wants to show his strength in a sumo wrestling contest. Akane accepts his offer rather quickly, and the two soon start to engage in an unsightly contest where they rub their sweaty bodies together. For the next test, they are asked what the name of Arthur's special blade is. Akane goes for the wrong answer, causing him to fall into mud, while Otto gets the answer right. While Akane goes to the stream to wash off the mud, he wonders how the training is supposed to make them strong while recalling his last encounter with his father. Just then, a girl trips from a tree behind him, so he rushes to her aid only to fall down before he can get close to her. She takes a liking to his necklace and asks him to give it to her as a sign of their friendship. Of course, he refuses because it's all he has that reminds him of his father. However, the girl continues to use her feminine charm to get close to him. Once the rest of the group show up, the girl disappears and hides behind a wall. Meanwhile, Arthur and his knights observe the training from headquarters in hopes that it will somehow prepare them for the Divine Gate mission. At the end of the day, they are given a place to bath, after which they gather in a room for a brief meeting. Here, they all ask how the training is supposed to make them strong, but Bedivere tells them she only knows that Arthur always has a reason for everything he does. For the next mission, they are taken deep into the forest where some men transform into beasts to attack them. They recognize the transformed people as seconds, a form humans obtain when they leave the barrier to seek for the Divine Gate in the wild. Ginji wants to fight them, however Akane argues that their mission isn't to defeat them but to get to the checkpoint. He manages to convince everyone to run away together, but they soon encounter the cute girl who turns out to be a second too. She immediately attacks Akane, claiming that they are intruders who must be eradicated from their lands. While she beats the hell out of Akane with her ninja moves, the others in the group also find it difficult to fight off their pursuers. Meanwhile, the other knights suggest that they send reinforcement to help out the kids, but Arthur wants to see how they'll handle the situation by themselves. Akane only defends because he doesn't want to hurt her, but she continues to transform with a killing intent, causing Otto to intervene just in time before she kills him. Although they are soon surrounded, Otto tells Akane to speak his mind and try to convey his feelings to the seconds who have been banished by the World Council. The guy thinks he is Naruto and goes on with his peace talk that the girl doesn't buy. She attacks him without hesitation, but before she can deal the final blow, Bedivere shows up with the other knights to annihilate the seconds who threaten the lives of their precious students. Akane watches in tears as the girl passes on from her injuries, so he asks if the only way was to kill her, causing Otto to inform him that he's too weak to try to control the outcome of such encounters. The next day, Arthur is summoned by the elders of the World Council to explain his purpose for searching for the Divine Gate. They think he is obsessed with the Holy Gate, but he promises them he only wants to avoid the tragedy the gate would bring if it merges some other worlds once again. He proceeds to a round-table meeting with his knights where he openly announces that it is time to enter the Divine Gate. Everyone seems happy to follow his lead without question, but one of the knights then asks him what he plans to do when he reaches the gate. He seems to want to return the world to its original state, but we all know that's a line for ANIME villains, so maybe he's going to be the bad guy eventually. Outside, Midori comes first in a race with Otto and Akane, who aren't even ashamed that a girl is more energetic than them. Brynor shows up to inform them that Arthur wants to see them because he'll soon be going to claim the Divine Gate. They have their doubts that Arthur might not take them along, but Otto is convinced that they are only in the academy to join the expedition. When they get to his office, he asks them to join him on the expedition alongside his Knights of Rounds and Ginjis group. He tells them he wants to become the king of the world and allow his friend called Santa Claus bring happiness to everyone instead of wars. The thought of an old man talking about Santa Claus makes them excited. They head out to determine if they'll actually go with Arthur, and Akane can't help but wonder how the Divine Gate works. The fairies tell them that the gate grants everyone's wishes as long as they reach it, and that's why the world is usually thrown into chaos, because people's wishes are selfish. Thanks to the fairies, they make up their mind and assemble with the other knights in Arthur's office. The gods Loki and Oz also show up beside Arthur to observe what they'll accomplish as they head out to claim the gate. That's it for this episode. Do leave a like and comment if you'll like part 2.